we're so focused on the outer world with all this noise coming at us and news and messages all the time. Just like that, an inner world is shaping how we go about life and how we feel. Showering, just at this conversation, how do you go about that? Do you scrub yourself like a farm animal, being really fast and effective? Or are you a bit gentle and careful with yourself? Those are questions that can be equally translated to the way you talk to yourself. Are you talking down on your body or actually a bit friendly with it? And so medically speaking, we have indicators that there is this way of being so removed and hostile to yourself that you become a bit self-lonely instead of self-friendly, you could say, in all different levels: touch, thought, and action. My name is Giulia Enders. I'm an author and physician from Germany, and I just wrote my second book, which is called Organs Speak: What It Really Means to Listen to Our Bodies.
Thank you for watching Big Think. If you'd like to support our work, we encourage you to join our members community. As a member, you'll receive our quarterly print magazine, a beautifully designed collection of the ideas and interviews that matter most. Big Think is for curious people who want to take deep dives into big ideas. To support the media you want to see in the world, go to bigthink.com/membership. And now, back to the interview. The skin, how wounds teach us to heal.
I've come across this thing with my patients, but also personally, that sometimes in situations during our everyday life, we feel like, I shouldn't feel this way, I should feel different. For example, someone you love passing, which was the case for me when my grandma died. I wasn't this grieving widow in the black dress crying into her little soup. No, I was just sort of numb. And then there's other situations like being promoted, but you don't feel so excited about, or the birth of your first child and you're not immediately heavily in love or something. And people think, oh, what's wrong with me? And they often say, am I broken? Am I weird? And I've heard this so many times now and witnessed it myself. And I think, no, you're absolutely not. It's just that humans are a bit more complex compared to Hollywood movies or things on some social media thread telling you how you should then feel or how excited you should be. It's just complexity. And the human body is complex, and it can just sometimes in those situations really be a very nice rail to hold on to and to figure out what's happening and going on. And for me, it was when I was feeling so numb and didn't have all these typical emotions, like just being, wailing in tears, when I read about wounds. And suddenly it clicked, and I thought, this is the process that I'm going through. It's like tissue being ripped from your skin, then there comes this crust, just covering it, in the first few seconds, to just cover it up. And it's a numb crust, just like how I was feeling. And sometimes, I know, you look down on it after a few days and you're like, is even anything happening there? It still looks the same, like 2 days ago. And I saw this illustration in a medical book where you see all the things that are actually happening underneath the numb crust. And it is reorganization. It is attracting cells that could help fix this, or really finding new structures of patching things up. And in that moment, suddenly I felt at ease again with myself, and I was able to cry because I realized it's just that. I have to do all this reorganization with this person that I loved so much. And maybe it is not conscious all the time, and maybe it doesn't hurt right away, and maybe it is covered up with something, but it's happening and it's okay, to let it. And I even realized some similar things like, oh, now I feel like I want to take a walk again, or I want to drink this or eat that. And similar to a wound attracting the cells and factors it needs to heal. And this made it easier for me. And I think quite a lot of other processes in the body can do that to people feeling like this. The fascinating aspect about human touch is that it can have quite similar effects to medication. And oftentimes we think for certain, benefits, we need to go to a pharmacy and pay money and swallow the pill. But, we're also human beings. Not everything has to come in a pill package. We thrive on touch. We have all these positive effects. We see it, for example, in people that are on intensive care units. We see it in people that don't even like touch so much, like people with autism or ADHD, sometimes find it a bit overstimulating. But even them, when they're being touched by someone that they feel it's okay, it has all these benefits to their physical being, to their nervous system. This whole area of research was opened up with research about preterm born babies, where it could be shown that they had skin contact after birth, and this would really benefit them. They would lower their stress hormones, their metabolism would show better results, and even after 1 year later, you could see differences in children having good skin contact, being less stressed, being a bit more flexible in reactions, compared to kids and babies that didn't. And so not being touched and being touched is a fundamental thing for a human, and especially also in phenomena like loneliness. Widows, for example, are well advised to maybe go and get a massage sometime, just, to have a little bit of touch if this is something that you're deprived of now. And just think that it's not only medication that can calm you down. One very good example for the effect of human touch just in everyday life is something called interpersonal synchronization. And an experiment, which was also replicated afterwards, that shows this effect is one person laying in a tube and a partner person that they really like or feel close to sitting outside holding their hand. And while they do that, they don't see each other, but you can tell that their heart rate is synchronizing, their skin conductivity, a sign for like stress activation, is like coming down, and your blood pressure and stress hormones, and all is coming to the level of the person which is more relaxed. So you can actually, just by being in skin contact with each other, transmit a calmer nervous system to the other person, and not the other way around, which is, good thing. So we know about this now, and when we know about it, we might use it. When you look at loneliness, you have, of course, the typical loneliness, which is not having other people around you, feeling close to them, feeling connected. But there's also, I think, another kind of loneliness, which I would depict as like self-loneliness. And I would say so because of studies that look into how do you touch yourself, how do you talk to yourself, how do you handle yourself, how do you take care of yourself sometimes. And there's very various ways, and we rarely ever talk about these because we don't so much think about having an inner world and a relationship with an inner world also, and not just an outer world. We're so focused on the outer world with all this noise coming at us and news and messages all the time. Just like that, an inner world is shaping how we go about life and how we feel. And people will, for example, touch their face when they get nervous, as if they would be like, hello, I'm still here. And you can see this popping up in brain signals, signaling like, oh, face is there, sort of. And then you have it in people, showering just at this conversation. How do you go about that? Do you scrub yourself like a farm animal, being really fast and effective? Or are you a bit gentle and like careful with yourself? Those are questions that can be equally translated to the way you talk to yourself. Are you talking down on your body, or actually a bit friendly with it? And so medically speaking, we have indicators that there is this way of being so removed and hostile to yourself that you become a bit self-lonely instead of self-friendly, you could say, in all different levels: touch, thought, and action. Genetically, humans are capable of healing wounds in two different ways. The one way we generally know, with a little scar in the end. And this scar comes about from immune cells really trying to keep everything safe while something vulnerable, damaged even, is being healed up. So they're producing all these kind of substances, sometimes a bit aggressive ones, to like fend off incoming intruders like bacteria, let's say. And this makes sense, and it's just a step of caution. But when we are in the womb as embryos, we don't heal that way. We just say, okay, what's there, left and right, and we pull it together with sort of like a tissue string. And this way, it doesn't cause any scars. And we can get a bit closer to that by taking good care of wounds. If they're really, really clean, and we make sure of that they're clean, you can put like a water-resistant bandage over. It's called like wet wound healing in medicine. And by that, the immune system gets a bit more safety. It can use different techniques, and often the scarring is less when you do so. When we look at a wound healing up, one step is forming a scar, right? And the interesting part about this process is that there can be quite some similarities to human and psychological healing after being wounded or hurt, which is wounds don't all heal the same way. Some of them might overreact after they've had like a hurtful incident. Like compared to someone, being burglared, then you have like 5 locks on your door, or someone being cheated on, you always then are mistrusting and checking the phone of your partner constantly. Just like that, a bit too much can happen with wounds also. It's called like hypertrophic scarring, when there's a bit more like tissue working its way up than necessary. And this can even go completely out of hand, which is then the case of keloid scars, which won't even stop growing new tissue unless you have a professional coming in, like a doctor, and really helping with certain techniques. There's also the opposite possible. We have scars that sink under the level of our skin around it, hypotrophic scars. And what's happening here is in a way similar to people after they've had a tragic loss or something, always going back in the head and like being really hard on themselves, saying, what could I have done differently? Was it all my fault? Why did I do this and that? Our immune cells can do just that. And when there's been an incident and a wound, they go to that place and keep attacking all these structures that are just trying to like build back to like everyday life. And because they do so, it'll sink under the level of our skin, causing these scars that sometimes, after a vaccination in the arm, like older vaccinations could do that, or acne scars can create something like this. And so sometimes that parallel that you now know of could be helpful when you yourself are going through a troubling time, experience something hurtful or loss. You might think, am I going in the hypertrophic scar direction? Or, am I being too tough on myself? Am I going in the hypotrophic scar direction? And what is actually necessary for a scar to heal, nicely and without disruption is having like some patch over it to calm it down, to not have too many influences to outside, to really be on its own, like having the cells do their thing without too much disturbance, without too much stress on the skin, and just some good nutrients and, calm to get through this. So when you look at a human, you basically see all the skin, and what it is dead. Because that's the very outermost layer of our skin. It's just dead cells. And it seems to me sometimes a bit ironic, or maybe just genius, that death is the coat of life when you want to look at it that way. For the skin, it makes a lot of sense because these dead cells are not sensitive like the ones that are underneath it. So you can have some robust scratching or moving and touching, and it's not so bad. Also, they can't be infected by viruses because viruses need alive cells to live and replicate and thrive in. But these dead cells look just like a chair or the floor to a virus. So it's actually a great invisibility cloak to the viral world that we have on here. The only viruses that that can infect skin are wart viruses, and they can never do so with intact skin. They always need a little tear or a little thing to get underneath this first dead layer of cells to the alive skin cells to do their thing. And then also the very uppermost layer can't really bleed. If you cut it just like these few micrometers deep, it doesn't bleed. Like if you cut deeper, then it starts to bleed. And you will even see at a certain level tiny little dots of blood vessels that you then reach. But all in all, this creates this whole atmosphere of protection around the alive cells. And in a way, couldn't you just also say that's what happens during life? We need death. We need this limit. We need the contrast to really value, appreciate, and protect aliveness, being alive. Well, certainly in a body, it works that way.
Four times a year, we print a magazine worth putting your phone down for. Big Think's premium print magazine is built with custom artwork and expert insight from the world's biggest thinkers. No AI slop, no rage bait, just big ideas for curious people. Support the media you want to see in the world. Go to bigthink.com/membership to join.